The desert stretched endlessly, a golden ocean of silence beneath the searing sun. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose like. Dust danced in the wind, like whispers from a forgotten past. But today, something ancient was about to resurface. Something so strange and out of place that even the military couldn't make sense of it. Sergeant Collins squinted at the grainy feed on his monitor, fingers tensed over the control sticks of the Air Force's high-altitude reconnaissance drone. For over 3 hours, it had been nothing but sand. Miles of nothing. And then, something moved. At first, it looked like a shadow, a distortion in the dunes. But as the drone adjusted altitude and closed in, the shape became clearer. A massive angular figure partially buried in the sand, rising out of the desert like a ghost of war. "That's a ship," Colin whispered. The room behind him fell silent. "Not just a ship," another soldier muttered. "That's an aircraft carrier." The words hung in the air like smoke. A fully intact aircraft carrier, marooned in the middle of a sun-scorched wasteland, miles from any ocean. It defied logic, geography, and history. Yet, there it was, plain as day. The drone couldn't land. The shifting sands and turbulent air would tear it apart. Colin stood. "We're going out there." No one questioned it. Whatever this was, it was bigger than any of them. Within the hour, the team was geared up and rolling across the desert in a military transport, sand whipping against the windshield as the GPS guided them toward the impossible. The closer they got, the more surreal it became. The carrier was huge, easily the size of a city block, its rusted steel hull rising from the earth like a relic from a forgotten war. Time had gnawed away at it, but it stood firm, half swallowed by sand, as if defying the desert itself. "This thing has been here for decades," Colin murmured as they pulled up. They found a rusted ladder bolted to the west side of the ship, stretching nearly 60 feet upward. It groaned under their weight but held firm. One by one, they climbed, emerging onto the cracked and silent flight deck. Faded markings and decaying crates lay scattered across the surface like artifacts in a graveyard. Colin opened one of the crates. Inside, military rations, long expired. He held up a package, the label faded but still legible, 1994. "This isn't just some derelict," Mark said grimly. "It's worse than that." Ahead, a large hole yawned in the deck, leading into the dark belly of the ship. Colin gestured forward. They moved as a unit, weapons drawn, each step echoing ominously against rusted metal, and then a noise. A deep guttural growl that vibrated through the hull and into their bones. Everyone froze. Mark's voice broke the silence, barely above a whisper. "What the hell was that?" The sound vanished, swallowed by the shadows. But something had changed. The ship was no longer silent. The team pressed on, nerves fraying. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Their boots clanged softly on the floor as they moved deeper. Another sound. A metallic clang, sharp and sudden, ricocheted through the corridor like a warning. Then, movement. Mark raised his hand. "I saw something, down that hallway." Before anyone could respond, a shadow darted past. Then another. "We're being watched," Mark said. Colin nodded, eyes narrowing. The shadows weren't random, they were circling. And then all hell broke loose. Dark figures lunged from the darkness. One struck Colin, sending him crashing to the floor. A sharp pain split across his head. Darkness swallowed him whole. When he opened his eyes, it was quiet. Too quiet. His vision blurred, but shapes slowly came into focus. He was tied to a chair. Thick ropes dug into his wrists and ankles. Across the room, his team, Mark, Davis, and 2 others, were all bound the same way. Confusion and fear twisted their expressions. "What the hell happened?" Mark rasped. "No clue," someone muttered. "But whoever did this, they're still here." A sound, footsteps. A figure stepped from the shadows. She was older, maybe in her 60s. Sharp eyes, no-nonsense posture. She wore simple clothes but held the air of command. "My name is Amina," she said, voice cold and even. Mark scoffed. "Amina who?" That's all you need to know? Colin straightened as much as the ropes would allow. Why are we here? No answer. Amina motioned to the side. Several men emerged, civilians but disciplined. She spoke again. Untie their legs, keep their hands. With stiff limbs, the team stood, hands still bound as Amina turned and walked. Follow me. They were led down a rust-streaked hallway into a vast chamber deep within the ship. Monitors lined the walls, glowing dimly in the low light. The screens showed images of nearby villages, empty, desolate, lifeless. Wires snaked across the floor. At the terminals sat more civilians, silent, gaunt, and alert. A growl rumbled from a corner generator, but the team's focus was locked on the screens. What happened here? Colin asked. Who are you people? No answer. Instead, Amina gestured. The soldiers were forced down to their knees. Then she spoke again. I'm risking everything telling you this. Her voice carried weight, pain, truth. Colin held her gaze. My intuition says I can trust you, she said. So don't make me regret this. Colin nodded slowly, signaling that she had his full attention. Amina's eyes scanned the faces of his team, each one still processing the surreal turn their mission had taken. The flickering screens behind her showed images of desolation, villages hollowed out, streets cracked and dry, nature gone silent. Something catastrophic had happened here, but the cause was still a mystery. We are on the southern edge of the Sahara, Amina began. This land once thrived. Our villages were full of life, farming, music, community. The tribes didn't always agree, but we coexisted, until this arrived. She pointed toward the walls of the ship, her voice tightening. 30 years ago, during a tribal conflict, our leaders asked for international aid. Instead of negotiators, they sent this. Colin followed her gaze, the rusted hull creaking quietly. This ship? Amina nodded. It was once in the ocean. This land was marshland then, but it was attacked during deployment. It leaked fuel, chemicals. Its systems broke down, and no one came to remove it. The water dried up, and the desert claimed what was left, including us. Mark looked at the monitors again. The abandoned villages. They didn't abandon them, Amina said softly. They died or fled. The soil was poisoned. Nothing grew. People went hungry. The rest were forgotten. Colin's mind reeled. He had grown up trusting his mission, believing they were always the ones bringing order. The idea that their own country's actions had helped destroy these communities. It was hard to swallow. So, why call us now? He asked. We've been hidden for decades. But a storm uncovered the ship again, Amina explained. We sent the false distress signals. We knew you'd come. Mark tensed. You tricked us? We had to, Amina replied. No one was listening. We had no voice, no weapons, no resources, only this story. And now, you've seen it. The room fell into a heavy silence. Amina stepped forward. You have two choices. Leave and let this place die, or help us reclaim it. Colin looked at his team. Tired, confused, but changed. Mark met his eyes and gave a small nod. We came for answers, Colin said, turning back to Amina. And we're not leaving until we help fix what we broke. Relief flickered across her face. We'll speak to your base, Colin continued, to your general. If he has any conscience left, he'll listen. It wasn't long before they were back in their vehicle, Amina riding with them. Her people watched from the ship's deck, anxious and silent. As they neared the military base, the mood shifted. Tension crackled in the air. The guards at the gate raised weapons, confused by the unfamiliar civilian in military transport. We need to see the general, Colin ordered. Minutes later, they were led inside. The general, stern and unimpressed, looked up as they entered. You went dark, Sergeant, he barked. I hope you have a damn good reason. I do, Colin replied, stepping aside as Amina placed a flash drive on the table. The general raised a brow, skeptical, but when the footage played, images of sickened soil, poisoned water and drone recordings of the ship, his face changed. He leaned back, the color draining from his cheeks. "We thought we were helping," he murmured. "No one ever reported this." "Well, you see it now," Amina said coldly. The room was still. "We'll send cleanup units," the general said at last. "We'll rebuild the villages. Then we'll leave." True to his word, the following weeks brought change. Bulldozers arrived. Bioremediation teams cleansed the soil. Engineers tore through the rusted hull, removing toxic waste that had seeped into the ground for decades. Side by side, soldiers and villagers worked, not just rebuilding structures, but rewriting a legacy.